prayer?
I'm not good at it.
All right. Anybody want to do an opening prayer? Kenya?
Father God, we're in front of you tonight, asking you for wisdom and knowledge for this meeting. May it be successful in your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Be seated. Welcome, everybody. We're doing our June Central County meeting. We have 4 board members waiting on one and waiting on our attorney to make it in. We've got a little bit of rain. Jose, a little bit of rain. If you'd like to make a comment, please get a comment. Fill it out as much as you possibly can and give it to one of us, and we'll allow you to speak as well. Can you give us your name as well?
Dina Gephardt.
Dina? Thank you, welcome. Dina's representing our new treasurer. I guess you'll be the person that we'll see most often? All right, thank you, welcome. So with that being said, I'm not sure if the board's been able to see the agenda. If the board doesn't mind, we're going to skip around just a little bit until we get our attorney here. With that being said, if the board's okay with it, we'll do a little switching around the agenda, allowing our professionals, our subject matter experts to give their input on what they have, and then we'll go to the other things to vote on and stuff like that. If there's any questions, we'll go to the attorney. Is the board okay with that?
Yeah, I think there's one public comment.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. And yeah, we'll get to that. So with that being said, Mr. Dobbs, you want to start on your engineer's report?
Sure. So, for the month since the last meeting, we reviewed and approved 5 electric permits. We attended an on-site meeting with Henry County, Florida Commerce grant writers. They came out and did an inspection on what's going on with the Henry County, the additional pump station number 12,
Sure.
the rehab. We came out for that. I do have an update on the permit, and so attended the update for the resiliency grant and the grant writers. We coordinated with Water Management District on the status of the AGI permit. I talked to the reviewer, Clayton Hanson, and the permit is being written. It's going to be issued. So there are no further RAIs, and that's going to be, so that's the mitigation for the wetlands out in the above ground impoundment. In addition, I didn't have it on here, we had I had a call today, we had to apply for the 12th pump.
Absolutely.
The permit had expired, construction phase of the permit and all that kind of stuff, and I got a call from the reviewer. It's typical Water Management District. Oh, we want you to write us a letter saying exactly what you're doing. We're upgrading 3 pump stations, we're adding a 12th pump station. So she's gonna send me an RAI, we'll get that right back to her. But we need that permit so that Henry County can install that 12th pump.
Gotcha.
One of the things that she pointed out was that you don't have emergency overflows in your above ground impoundment. Most above ground impoundments, and I don't know how many of you guys have dealt with those before, you got a pump station and you have an emergency overflow, because the thought behind it is you're gonna turn that pump on and, nobody's gonna be sitting there watching it. So if the pump, if the above ground impoundment gets high enough, they wanna make sure that water will pass back into the farm instead of filling up the above ground impoundment and overtopping it and then breaching, the above ground impoundment. So, what I told her was, I said, look, we have an elevation we can pump to. We've got 24/7 coverage, so we're going to be monitoring how much water is in the above ground impoundment. I said, look, if you require us to put in one structure that can handle 300,000 gallons of flow, I said, that's going to be a huge structure. And number one, we don't have it in the grant, and all that kind of stuff. So she told me, she's like, look, put that in your response that you got 24/7 coverage. You pump to a certain elevation, because there was Rock had done a great job of assembling a timeline of all the permitting that had been done out here and all this kind of stuff. So when I applied for this permit, I used all the information that he did and put together a narrative for them saying, look, you know, this is where it was, and you had to bring once you brought the above ground impoundment levy up to 31.5, which you completed, you know, then you could put the additional pump station in. So went through all that, and she said everything was good. We got to tweak a couple little things, and then we'll get the permit on that. So, but other than that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
And the one that was asking the question, Mr. Dobbs, that was from Southwood Water Management?
Southwood Water Management District, correct.
Okay.
Correct. And she said she did agree it was, you know, just a minor modification, adding that pump back in,
Mhm.
you know, but, so there's a $250 fee.
Sure.
You know, I know that we're, you know, financially challenged county, you know, it would save you $150 if we can find that paperwork that says that, because you'd have to pay $100 instead of $250. And I could get with that and do that. But I did not, I was gonna tell Becky tonight, I didn't know she wouldn't be here, so.
What else, yeah?
That's it.
Okay. Still ringing just a little bit, Jose. Anybody from the board have any questions for Mr. Dobbs?
I just got one, so the back structure to the reservoir, is we hold it up, what is it, 26? 26. So now, as Monterey keeps developing out, there's gonna be less ground coverage for water, because the displacement of it, as homes come in, they're gonna start displacing the water.
Correct.
As far as the reservoir, at some point, are we gonna do something with the discharge? Maybe, would we have to upgrade it, or would it be, is it plenty big enough now?
I have not analyzed that. That's a question, you know, we're gonna add a 13th pump,
Right, it's
you
gonna,
know, and so I can work with Culpeper Turpinning to review that discharge and see adding the 13th pump. You know, because typically what ends up happening is your discharge is based on the size of you know, we're not adding acreage.
right,
All right, so theoretically, and I haven't analyzed or anything, theoretically, that discharge should be sized for, you know, how much acreage you have on site.
I think the reservoir is
So,
way bigger than.
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
you got plenty of
yeah,
storage.
you're only holding, you know, a couple feet.
So it's like overkill, I guess, it's an
Yeah,
overkill reservoir.
absolutely. And that's what I told the reviewer today. I said, look, this reservoir is a lot bigger than what it needs to be,
Mhm.
you know, and all this kind of stuff. So, anyway, she was happy with my answers,
Yeah.
and, you know, John, I don't know if you were here yet, but, you know, there were no emergency overflows in the above ground impoundment. Typically, in a regular above ground impoundment, you would have emergency overflows. You know, I told her, I said, look, there aren't any emergency overflows. And I said, but we have 24/7 staff that monitors this. And I said, we have an elevation that we can pump to, and if we get to that elevation, they're gonna cut the pumps back.
Yeah. There's a reason I asked about that, is that
Yeah.
in the future, if there is a way that we could upgrade them structures, we could do kind of like, it's gonna be like a screw gate with a weir,
Right.
to where it would overflow to kind of have that emergency.
Right.
You can do that, but remember when they permitted this place, when you had the plan of reclamation, they assumed full build out.
Right.
They assumed that there was impervious on every lot. How much of the lot, I don't know.
I think like 40%, something like that. Whatever the legal requirements
Way,
are.
way below
Yeah.
capacity.
I understand what you're saying, but you know, like John's saying, you only get so much discharge because of the size of your project. You know, and if you're not adding acreage into your project, then you're stuck with how much discharge you have. So,
Emergency overflow is typically set at a point where the integrity of the dike is compromised. At that elevation, you get a quote, emergency overflow. I don't think this place has ever come close to that.
well,
They don't like increasing your discharge,
no.
because then the downstream guys are.
Yeah, they're gonna end up flooded out.
And the top of your dike, so like say we can pump it up to 26, and the top of the levee is at 31.5, so
We got plenty of
plenty of room. There's a big buffer there.
Yeah.
Swimming.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Mr. Dobbs? I've got one. Mr. Dobbs, do we get any feedback from Henry County on the drainage along off 833 on Montura side, as well as the drainage on Pinecone.
I know, last time I talked to Shane, they were gonna look into it, but I have not gotten back with them. I will get back with them and find out what their plan is. But he did say it was their, he did agree that it was their responsibility. And I'm working with them on, several things. We're working on the Henry County, the new school and well, in high school.
Yes, sir.
So we're working closely together.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so with that being said, we'll get back to the agenda. Our attorney's here, we'll take, comments. Gary, would you like to speak?
Yes, sir. I just come in to,
Come up to the podium so we can hear you. You give your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes, Gary.
Southfield Livio, Montero State.
I just come in, I was, let go a couple weeks ago. I had some medical problems. It was a little bit of a bumpy ride up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was waiting on my insurance. I didn't have the money to go and, pay out of pocket. So I got my insurance and I went and I had some sugar problems and a few things. Nothing bad. But anyhow, I got that taken care of and I got my doctor's excuses and all, and I give them to Becky.
Sure.
But Becky basically said that, it was done. But the thing is I can understand, maybe it's right at six months, right at 6 months. I can understand that there was a problem and you wrote me up within the 90 days, but there was never no write-up. So I started January 8th, my 90 days was April 8th, and I never got my evaluation or anything. But what I'm getting at is I was kind of caught off guard. I had no warning of
The situation. And of course, the work, I mean, as far as the grader, the swells, the roads, the long reach, whatever, I know all of that, and they know that. So it's not a problem with the experience. But I was just wanting to talk with y'all guys, and I was hoping Becky would be here to see maybe if, we could come up with something, put me on a 90-day probation or something like that, because I have my health straight. I live out here not far from here. And I was trying to stay local. I work on the road, Orlando, Vero Beach, and I just can't do that driving. I'm 157 years old.
So, the board, thank you, Gary. If the board doesn't know, Barry worked for us here at Central County, and, he was let go, I think. I'm not sure if the board got the emails. Did you guys get the emails? Yeah. I know I seen it. So, this is our employee here, and I guess he's asking to see what he could do, possibly getting, his job back, and also a few of his concerns. I know he reached out to me, appreciate it, and, so I checked into it, as we spoke, we as the board can look at it. I don't know if anybody wants to discuss it or bring it up, or John, you might want to put your 2 cents on this as well.
Yes, sir. So, all I know is, what I've been told by, the manager. And sir, as you probably know, the hiring and firing is done by the manager.
Yes.
It's not my decision. I believe in second chances. I think what's important is I understand that the termination was based on a significant number of absences, some of which where there was no notice, no calling in. But if this gentleman's work, we can confirm that his work was quality work. I think we would need to talk to the manager and see if she would be willing to start another probationary period, as you suggest. It's not up to me, and frankly, it's not up to the board either. It's up to the manager. I would be, if the board would like, I'd be happy to discuss it with the manager and see if we can work something out with you. Again, assuming what you said, that you are very good at handling the equipment.
Yeah, I don't think
No
it's ever
issues
been a
there.
concern.
So that,
His quality of work, I checked into it. It's quality of work, they never said anything negative, but it's quality of work.
I take responsibility because what I was trying to do, I didn't know I had sugar or anything, because I mean, I've never had anything like that. Now, I did have the blood pressure, but it's mild. I take one pill and I'm good. So I'll take responsibility because actually what I should have done was try to,
I don't know how to go about, I've never drawn unemployment or any type of, I don't know how to really, deal with all that stuff. But, maybe there's places out there where you can go and they'll, because you don't have insurance and if you're low enough income, then I could have maybe done that. But I thought I was good, and, you know, I made it right there. And actually, I just had got my insurance, and I was like, I'll go next week. My sister actually made an appointment for me. But I was here on a Friday, and I made it till 12, and I was like, I gotta go talk to Becky. Anyhow, I went and told Becky, I was like, I'm sorry, but I gotta go to town and if I can get a walk-in, then, I gotta get my blood pressure medicine. And I did, and then I come back by, it was around 3 o'clock, and showed her the papers. And at that point, I told her that they done blood work. So, you know, they sent me to the lab and done blood work. I got my blood pressure medicine, that I would be fine to work, but I'm gonna have to go back to this appointment. That's when I found out when they done the blood that I had sugar, sugar problem. So,
what's really disappointing is I made it and got my health straight and then,
Sure.
bam.
So, if John will talk, I'll bring my 2 cents. I'm looking at the report that she sent us. I don't have any issue with your quality of work or the type of person that you are. I would just say, because you're allowed to call in sick, right? You're allowed to call in sick, those type of things. But I think what I'm seeing, Gary, just 10,000 foot view is, there is quite a few, but if it's medically related, so be it. But I think my only concern is, the no call, no show. That's the only thing I have. I would just say, you missed quite a bit, starting in March, April, May, certain days. So let's say, for instance, you are feeling sick, your sugar's bad, high blood pressure, whatever. As I need people, you still got to report. You got to call, you got to text, you got to do something. You know what I'm saying?
I text, and there was a couple of times that I text, but I noticed, not right away,
Sure.
but I noticed that it didn't go through, so at that point, I come down.
Sure.
So, which I know is not, you gotta do it the right way in the morning, but I did come down and
So that's my only 2 cents. As far as talking with you, reaching out to the team, they say your work speaks for itself. So, kudos to you on that. So that's my only thing. I don't have anything like that, but if, the mayor would love to reach out to Becky, because we
I
definitely
think we could do something, Mr. Chairman, probation, that if there's another no call, no show, that's it. Because that's never, you gotta take care of your health. You have sickness.
Absolutely.
Nobody would ever ask you to do otherwise.
Absolutely.
No call, no shows are,
Yeah, well, I got to speak with Gary and Becca, and I asked Becca, she sent me the same thing, we went over it, and I told her, within them 6 months, she ever say anything to him, or advise him, and then she said, well, I wasn't able to talk to him, I said, in 6 months, you couldn't find one day to sit down, not a write-up, that's why I told her, we have a policy. And she said, well, I didn't want to get him in trouble. I was like, but you still got a policy you got to follow. So in 6 months, she never wrote him up, never nothing. And then that's what looks bad. So, I understand, like I told Gary, if you did something wrong, you did something wrong. But the thing is that we have a manager that has to abide by a policy. That's why it's there. And it looks bad that she's saying, well, in 6 months, this is what he did. So now it's like, so what did you do about it? Well, I fired him at the end. And that's like what I was telling you, John. If you have a child, 10 years, they're acting up, and then you want to come in and be dad, it's your fault. So, and us as the board, we got to make sure that we hold her accountable for that type of stuff, because, this type of stuff shouldn't be happening here. And that's my thing. So, like for me, his work, he does great work. We don't have a grader operator, so now,
We didn't hire for a grader though.
huh?
We didn't hire for a grader.
No?
No, he got hired specifically for addiction.
With the grader. Well, what have you spent most of your time on?
it swells with a grade.
And you can do with the grader.
So,
So you gotta be a great operator. But either way, because you do roads too,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's pretty much what he's done since he's been
The
on
whole
board.
time I've
so it's
been
gonna be
Sad to say.
yeah. for the grader, so, I mean,
Great or great all, I'm sorry.
no, grader is a whole totally different
That's
machine.
what, I thought you said great all.
No,
I was
grader.
hoping to see him on the great all. That's what I was hoping to see him on the
But,
great all.
you know, like I said, to go back to it, you know, my thing with her is that I told her after them 6 months, why did she not write him up, verbal, write it up, you know, if you spoke to him, something,
Absolutely.
and nothing, and that's what I
He
have
made
the
that
issue
point.
with.
Yes, sir, he made
You
that
know,
point, yes, sir.
if he's having medical issues, I mean, I understand he didn't have insurance, whatever, like I said, if he didn't do no call, no show, shouldn't be doing that either.
Absolutely.
So, at the end of the day, me, what I would like to see is, him come back on board, because if not, they're gonna go out trying to look for somebody to cut ditches again. And I spoke to her, I said, is he a good operator? She said, he's a great operator, he's the best one we've ever had. So I said, we're gonna find another one, she said, we don't know. So that's what we gotta think about, so I mean, I would like to see him come back, put him on a probation, and then go from there. If he burns his bridge, well then, you know, but that's just my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
So I just wanna make sure the board understands, you know, get down to what all happened and what was done and what wasn't done. And we need to stay on top of her about following our policy. It is bad whenever after 6 months, she sends that email, we look at all that time, and there's not one write-up, one verbal.
So, I concur.
That's one. And I just want to say this, I get along great with Becky.
She didn't
I
say
think
you did.
that, I
Yeah.
think the world of her, I mean, but, and like I said, I took responsibility, it's just, I just thought, hey, this time here, she knew that I was dealing with a doctor, if I had been her or anybody, I'd say, look, okay, I've worked through you with your health, now you got your health straightened out, you gotta tighten up as far as your attendance, I mean, you have to,
Absolutely.
and that's the way.
Well, that's what Supervisor Sellers is speaking is having those one-on-one conversations, as well as that documentation. Hey, by the way, because when you have those conversations and documentation, you can bring stuff to light as well, if you'd like to, as far as your private life, you know what I'm saying? Because your health is priority for yourself, of course, and it's private as well. But yes, I agree, documentation should be there, because one of the things that they teach us, employees missing, is everything okay?
Yes.
You know, could there be some issues at home or with himself or whatever? So, yeah, I think it is real critical, as Supervisor Self spoke about.
And she spoke very highly of you.
She did.
You know, she speak very highly of you.
She did.
So,
Concur with that?
you know, I think it's just something we should look into and, you know, see what could be done.
Anything else on the board? Go ahead.
I just wanna, first of all, say, you know, thank you for coming up here, because I think, you know, sometimes there's a lot of employees that, you know, and I'm not saying specifically here, but they'll complain about something, but it never really gets brought up, right? Sometimes people just complain, and never do anything about it, so thanks for coming up here. And then, you know, as far as the situation, my recommendation is if, you talk to Becky or John and, you know, she decides to bring you back on board, my recommendation is, you know, over-communicate and then, you know, go over expectations with her, you know, or any job really, right? If your manager doesn't tell you, hey, this is my expectation when you call out.
Sure.
Right? Or if you're not feeling good or this or that, because I mean, at the end of the day, if we can over-communicate, that goes a long way.
Yes.
So that's my only recommendation.
I have a couple of questions.
Go right ahead.
In the 4 months that you say were terminated, correct? After 4 months?
It's right at 6.
Okay. In between that, when you have those no call, no show, the next day that you came to work, do the manager sit down with you and explain to you how that worked?
No.
Not at all. Not in no moment she did that.
Well, excuse me to interrupt you, but again, us as a board, if there's no documentation, it didn't happen.
Right.
I'm just,
No, it could be, I mean, a conversation,
you know what? I agree with the conversation, but if you don't have it on paper, it kind of never happens.
the first,
Or, per our conversation, we talked about this, and this, because you always have to have something in writing to go back on.
yeah, I agree with you 100%, but when that happened the first time, so the first time, okay, that you didn't no call, no show, you should be some kind of communication, okay? That's always happened like this, the first incident, some kind of communication, doesn't have to be a write-on.
I'm with you.
After that, that's when you start making out write-ons. Now, the question is, in that time, did she sit down with you the first time and spend, that's all.
And what, and,
Yeah, I don't think that happened.
now, when I left, you know, I was trying to make it, but when I left that day at 12, it was a Friday, and come back at 3 and brought the paperwork where I had went, they gave me the blood pressure medicine, they done the lab work. I told her, I said, Miss Becky, I said, I apologize, I said, I don't want to lose my job, I said, I know things are a little bit rough right now with the up and down, I said, but once they get the blood work back, the doctor told me that, you know, he said you could have sugar, you could have cholesterol, you could, so I ended up having not bad sugar, but enough to be on one,
So, man,
it's,
about medication.
yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but,
I understand all that, but I'm going back to the first incident.
No, sir.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you look at how many days he missed, there should have been, if she was documented, there should have been talk to him, wrote him up, and there's not one talk, one write-up. Because by that time, like I even told her, anywhere if that happened, they'd have been fired on the second no call, no show, even the first one. And then she said, well, I never documented nothing. I'm thinking after 6 months?
No,
I said, it don't make sense. That's why, like Supervisor Mata saying, it just,
So, John, if you
ain't nothing there to look at.
I agree with you.
So, John, if you would have that conversation, keep the board in the loop, and hopefully, Gary, I think hopefully it should work out. But, like I say, reach back out to Becky and what's on, and also, so you're gonna know, if you do have the privilege to come on board because of your work, there will be no retaliation. I know anybody on this board plays with that. I know a lot of people, so as Supervisor Cortez said, we appreciate you coming up speaking to the board. I don't believe in retaliation. We should be more professional than that, even if we have issues, concerns, and nobody should be afraid to come talk and say what they feel or you know, the other side of the story, so to speak. So if you do come on board, which we hope you do, rest assured, you don't have a bullseye on your head or anything like that. And if there is, we'll take care of it as a board.
I'll come and do like I did before, you know, I'll go do my work, do good work, and a lot of it. And that's the thing is, I think a lot of Becky, that's why I don't want it to be like, if I do get to come back.
And she hadn't said anything yet.
Yeah, I just want to say, okay, now, let's go and things be the way they're supposed to be, because I'm not proud of that up and down stuff either.
Sure.
You know, it's just, but,
All right.
anyhow.
We're just gonna make sure she goes over the policy with all the employees, which we do gotta work on our policy, 'cause there's problems to make sure that,
Totally agree.
you know, that they go through all that to where this is clear, understood, and then for her to know that if this does happen, you gotta follow policy. You gotta verbal, write you up, or termination, the way the policy is written.
Thank you, Gary, appreciate it.
Thank you.
John, if you could, get back to the board.
Yes,
And
sir.
let us know what happens with your conversation. Will do. Thank you. So, John, because you were out, we kinda, as a board, agreed to switch this about. So we did go into the, subject matter excerpt report. So we started off with Mr. Dobb, then when you came on board, we got back to public comments. So we're gonna go back to 2 if you don't mind. So do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions to this agenda that we know of, besides from what we just approved of earlier? None, we'll get back on track with this. So approval, let me see, the meeting minutes from March 26th. Do we have a motion on the floor to approve the regular and budget board meeting minutes for, the regular meeting was for March 26th, also April 23rd, 2025, and then May 28th, 2025. We have approval on the board, a motion on the board to approve those meeting minutes.
Make a motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve those meeting minutes. Thank you, board. We did public comments. Any other comments? None? All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on, John. Old business, new business.
We did public comment.
We did public comments, yes, sir?
So then the first item is the actual, I know it was presented to you last.
It was.
Today's, you can't vote in the workshops. So today
Correct.
we're Voting, accepting the audit from customers.
And I think most of us we spoke and we had a good, us four here on the board, we had a very good discussion with our auditor. Seemed like we're in decent shape. I think there was something that he said that had to get approved tonight, 1.6 something.
Oh, for the,
Yeah.
carryover.
The carryover has to get approved.
1,697,000.
1,697,714 something has to get approved. So it can get turned over by July 1st. I believe he said something like July 1st. I have it in my
Yeah, I
BOD.
don't have the audit, so,
Okay.
that-
But he did, he
Sounds right.
made his recommendation, it seemed like we're in a good spot. The only thing that we have to do is talking internally. I guess when we get to our manager report, we'll bring it up to you, on something like that. So what do we need to vote on it?
So this would be to do two things in one vote. Accept the FY 24-25 audit.
Okay.
And secondly, approve the carryover.
That was the one, that was
Yeah.
the 1.6.
The carryover.
Yes, the carryover. Do we need to have that actual number?
No,
Or
it's in
just
the
a
audit.
carryover? Okay.
Correct.
So if, so see if we can get a motion on the floor.
I've got one thing about that.
Go ahead,
So,
go right ahead.
last year we went through the same thing with the audit. The day before, it was thrown in front of us, and then it's like, you have to vote on it.
Okay.
And that needs to stop. We need to get this way ahead of time to where we can look at it, because, I mean, we literally had it thrown in front of us yesterday, and now we're voting on it today.
Yeah, I think,
So the carryover is fine, but the other one, that's the problem. Because I think Supervisor Motter brought something up about that, like certain things that come up in front of us, and he wants to vote on it,
That's true statement.
and it shouldn't happen like that. We should have this way ahead of time.
yeah, well, as soon as the new treasurer gets acclimated to everything, I think that's a fair point that we can try to.
Or the other thing is, I think something that will work, another way that'll work, John, as well as subject matter experts, if you have our contact information, you have questions, we can hash it out without having to, as Mr. Selby loves to come prepared to the meeting, and I applaud that, you know, because there's nothing worse than you having to vote on something and you haven't really, dotted the i's or crossed the t's, you haven't really vetted it out, and then you make a decision, and then you look at it a week later and say, oh my God, I didn't have a chance to look through this.
You own it after that.
Exactly. So I think going forward, if we could make sure we see everything in a good amount of time. I know we're all pressed for time, so even, I have no problem people sending stuff to my personal email, and I'll look at it when I have free time and look at it, vet it over. So I'm not sure how you other board members feel about that, but you definitely have access to myself personally. If you have any kind of questions, concerns, or I have any questions, concerns, I don't have any problem reaching out. So make sure that we don't have any of these things. And he's right, I don't like making decisions at the last minute. The good thing, there was a lot of good things brought up last night, from Jeff and Tostani, so I'm happy to see that. But at the same time, John, there's some hard decisions that we're gonna make, in reference to our budget. And I think Mr. Moreno brought a great idea up, because eventually, we're gonna probably sit down as a board between now and the new
25, 26, budget.
25, 26, but also, what is that, landowners meeting? Our landowners meeting, to see what we want to do as far as how we're working. Because if you look at the numbers, we're balancing, but as we grow bigger, we're not going to be able to self-support ourselves. Because a lot of our money, I don't say a lot of our money, but quite a bit goes to a lot of different areas. So we're eventually going to dissolve ourselves or make ourselves look, go bankrupt pretty much with everything that we have. So I think Mr. Moreno brought a great idea up, is maybe possibly now until, because I know it's a process to make certain things happen, if it's approved, right? But maybe put a few bucks aside every year, and that line item will be, like for instance, if we approve $5 this year to go up $5, whatever that is for the whole tax roll, for our part of it, that will be in a line item for when we incorporate or whatever.
To have like a reserve account,
Exactly.
budget a certain amount and have it in a separate bank account.
But specific, I'm not sure about that, but specifically so for instance, for us to get away from doing what we do, to be like Lehigh, it's not gonna be for free, right? So, and it's gonna take time. So the thought that Mr. Moreno brought up, and it was a great idea, is to have that little bit of money, making money, and in that reserve, so when that time does come, let's say 7, 10 years down the road, we have a pretty good little nest egg that we have enough to go to Tallahassee, permits and whatever we have to do to make that happen.
Would you like me to elaborate on that now, or wait till the,
If you would, when it's your time,
okay.
if you would. So there's just some of the ideas that were sparked last night.
Say something for that.
Go ahead, Mr. Boyd.
Marie and I just came by here to meet her and say we've enjoyed the last 25 years.
Thank you.
And we should be in good hands.
We appreciate it. And thank you for your service. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
you.
Dawson.
Since you're kind, thank you. Thank you as well. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Be safe, John.
Thanks, John.
So with that being said, does the board want, John, can this hold off?
No.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Can we hold off to the end of this meeting? Because if he has any more questions, comments, or concerns, or, however you wanna do it.
Okay, I'll just make it. he's gonna-
I'm good, I already know.
Yeah.
I appreciate what, I kind of skimmed through it last night and a little bit this morning when I had a chance. I didn't see anything that popped out. He didn't see anything that popped out, which was a great thing.
No, it's a clean audit.
It was a clean audit, yes, sir. No deficiencies. The only thing he did say is, he says, I see what you guys are doing, and he agreed. You're gonna have to pay the ferry sooner or later. You can't, you're paying, you're gonna have to continue increasing, and then still, a lot of your money's still going in a different direction. So, sooner or later, us as a board, as well as, community members, we have to, talk to, we have to have, I think what we talked about, maybe having workshops with the community and see, because I guess you have to have certain kind of buy-in as well, right?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I
Sure.
mean, usually, when you increase a tax, in the same breath, you say, and those monies are gonna be for
Allocated for
X,
something.
Y, Z projects. Because people, to raise revenue is a hard sell. But
Sure.
To raise revenue, to do something that everyone thinks is a good thing for the community,
Different
it's
story.
different, yeah.
Right.
And we've been talking about this, you all have been talking about it for years.
Sure.
And things happen, in life, and after COVID, the cost of paving almost quadrupled.
Sure.
The cost of building materials went up significantly, the cost of
Sure.
labor everything
Yeah.
went up dramatically.
But I think we need to have like a foolproof plan with yourself as well as our, our treasury department. Let's say, for instance, the state or whatever, they say, no, it can't happen. Okay, well then, the money that we did charge, we send it back to the people. We send it back to the taxpayers. Hey, we used it for this, it didn't happen, because it's not a sure thing that they're gonna, let this happen, right? So if that's the case, we need to have, everything, checked out. All right, but I think that was a great idea, that's my opinion, but, sooner or later, we have to definitely figure this out. All right, so do we want to go forward? Do we have a motion on the floor for the 2024 fiscal year audit as well as the fund balance carryover?
A motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries 3-1.
Yeah, so my no will be for the audit, and my yes will be for the carryover.
Gotcha.
So just where you
What-
be clear on which one
so-
I'm.
Because I didn't hear it. Say it again, Chris, sorry.
I said for the carryover, I'm good with that. It's
Gotcha.
just the audit itself. I personally didn't have enough time to really scan
I
through
got
it as good. It didn't look bad, but I
Sure.
wasn't able to really go through it either, so.
So yay
Yeah.
for the balance, but a nay.
It's
for
the timing that you're talking about.
Yeah,
I think that will get better with, the new accounting firm, because auditors will audit anything to get the information to them. So I think it's a matter of getting everything to them
yeah.
earlier, and they'll be
Right.
able to.
We already fell in front of this a few times, and I know that Supervisor Mata brought it up, and then it's kind of gets been repetitive, so it's just time to now, like, say, hey, I'm not,
Right.
at some point, you're gonna say no.
That's true. I agree. All right, going on to 4B, discuss and vote on the new logo for Central County. I don't wanna assume, but this is the one that we discussed. We picked. This is the one that we picked, it's on your first paper.
Yep.
Do we have a motion on the floor to go with this new logo for Central County? And it does say Central County on here now. Water Control District.
Central County, what, yeah.
Any motion on the floor?
A motion for the new sign.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second? No second, we'll stay as it is. Motion does not, B does not, go through. All right, we're gonna discuss and vote on the C. Mr. Dobbs, can you, the C 139 basin permit that's expiring in 2/6?
Yeah, as I was going through the water management district's, database, I just noticed that this C-139 basic permit, is expiring in February 2026. I wasn't involved in it last time, we probably just need to, get that. I just wanna bring it to your attention, and I don't wanna wait till the last minute, like you said.
Yeah.
When I see something, I'm gonna bring it to you.
Right.
And like I said, I don't wanna come up here in January saying, oh my gosh, this thing's expiring in next month, or 2 weeks, so.
Is there anything in that permit that we need to know, or is there any kind of, adjustment or, difference that you might see?
I did not look at it. I can take a look at it again. I just wanted to bring it up to you guys to let you know that, so as we're moving forward.
Yeah, the C-139 basin permit is a water quality
Yes, sir.
certification.
Right.
And, the phosphorus, we have phosphorus targets.
Yes, sir.
That we have to meet somewhere.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like US Sugar, every big landowner in this basin has one. And I think Mr.
In fact, he
Bennett,
does an annual report.
well, Mr. Bennett did.
Oh, did he?
Yes. I recommend, because I recall him
Okay.
making his annual report every year. I bet you he has some pretty good files and copies of years past, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So who's doing the water sampling? For the districts, internally Central County, or
I would say we probably hire somebody out to take that sample, I'm assuming.
like even recent, within the last couple of years?
I would say so, yeah, because they have to take an annual, we have to pass an annual phosphorus, right, for the F1, the water that's leaving, which we call F1, but that water leaving has to be sampled, and then that's the reason for my question is, it has to meet a certain, it can't exceed a certain MCL.
Yeah, but I don't think we do it, so what they do is, so you have the C-139 basin, and in that basin, there's, the landowners, it's only public landowners on the hook, and I know a few companies like US Sugar.
Sure.
And then, there's a point where a C-139 discharges into the Everglades protection area. If that meets the phosphorus target, everyone's good. If it doesn't, they go upstream and allocate.
And
to
find
each-
out?
Yeah, well, they allocate responsibility to implement new BMPs to reduce the nutrients.
I was assuming from some of the stuff that I've read in times past that, I'm not saying we take the sample, but maybe somebody takes that sample for us for our discharge going past that weir.
Yeah.
We hire somebody, a firm or a consultant or an operator to take those samples to a certified lab, and they give us that information, and Mr. Bennett would give us, hey, by the way, because I remember him, he would always say, our phosphorus levels leaving the reservoir are within the MCLs.
Yeah, he would literally have like a little boundary
Correct.
report that he had to submit to the water management district.
Okay.
But Larry would probably give you all that.
So
I apologize, I'm not.
No, that's
prepared.
fine.
Again,
No,
I
no,
just
that's
wanted to
fine.
bring it up.
Yeah, you're gonna bring it up to speak. The only thing is if you could share apple to apple, because sometimes, those limits can be more stringent than times past.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? With everything that's going on, they might, make it a little bit tighter, so if there are, just bring it to our attention so we know.
I used to sample 200,000 acres down here.
So what is it that you're looking for us, Mr. Dobbs, on this?
Well, I don't,
You just
yeah.
bring it to
I
our
don't
attention?
know that, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, I didn't
Understood.
necessarily
Okay.
need a vote, it's just something that
Appreciate it.
You know, I look at that as just part of what I need to do as, you know, in my general duties.
No problem. Thank you so
And
much.
I just wanted to let you guys know I was getting busy on it, so.
Yeah, and so it's expiring on 2/26. If we have any comments or questions, I'm sure we have to have it in a certain time frame.
Yeah, and I'll, like I said, I'll start getting this information together and, you know, like that, we probably wanna file that at least by the end of the year, but
Okay.
probably October.
That's what I was gonna ask you, when should we be filing that to where we don't?
I would say probably
So
October.
there's a deadline in the
Absolutely.
permit.
Is there?
In
Okay.
our permit,
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
yeah.
I just saw the deadline, I'm like, oh, you know, that's not too far away, so let's talk about it at least, so.
Yeah,
And again, I'm sorry, I'm not more prepared, I just,
fine. You're way ahead of it already, so it's fine.
We appreciate
Plenty
it.
of time.
Thank you. All right, moving
at
on.
least it's not in May, right? Or March.
We're going to staff reports, John. We did, district manager's not here, absent as an emergency. We did the engineer's report, asked a few questions. So if you would, on the treasury report, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to say, I'm concerned that Dina,
Yes.
we're gonna get Dina the wrong impression. We're gonna finish this meeting while the sun is still out.
Don't get used to it,
Not
Dina.
the way it usually happens.
It is about 2.5
Don't
hours.
get used to it, Dina.
Oh, yeah, easy. So, I think we might get out there before the sun comes down. So, hey, great news. The ERP for the reservoir, as we speak, is being written up. The district, Clayton advised us that he is writing it up, so it's done. I want to thank Mr. Dobbs for really helping us get the ball across the finish line. It's been a painful, multi-year process, but I think we got a very fair deal. But talking about budget, we got a budget for implementation of the requirements of that permit.
Sure.
And that's gonna be a couple $100,000. And I'm pulling that out of, you know, where, I don't know, cost of fencing, signage. We're talking about thousands of linear feet, so, that needs to be, factored in.
Yes, sir. Go on.
John, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but were you here when I was talking about the, other permit to add the 12 pump back in?
I heard yes, sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you were.
We finalized the Fortress contract. We had some back and forth, some comments, but I think we are done with that.
Yes, sir.
Also, I worked on, so anytime you get an audit, the auditor calls the attorney and says, I want an audit letter. And so we put together the audit letter where I talk about potential liabilities that I project for the fiscal year.
Sure.
The cotton matter is an example.
Okay.
It's a potential liability.
Okay.
We have been, it's gonna be up to them to quantify it, I'm still waiting.
Sure.
So anyways, we prepared the audit letter. And then just some miscellaneous things about, remember your Form 1 disclosures? Have you all received an email?
From you, yes.
No, but you should be getting an email from the Florida Ethics Commission.
I don't think I've seen it, because
Like, I get one.
mine gets
I get
hacked.
6 of them.
Yeah.
Was that for the financial one?
Mine gets hacked.
Yeah, it's real basic, but I
Yeah.
have 6 governmental clients, so
Yeah.
You come off for the ethics, right?
for ethics.
Yeah.
But I get an email, like Florida Commission on Ethics, and it says
Yeah.
reminder,
When it's due July 1st.
but I always
Yeah.
send you guys a reminder too. It's real basic, and honestly,
We need a
we're
report
on
on
the
this.
same thing every year unless there's a dramatic change in your financial world, you win the lottery or something.
Sure. I think Becky said she was supposed to send it out to most of us, because
Yeah.
my.
I get the one from the state, right,
Yeah, 'cause I got mine already, turned mine in, so mine will be
Good deal.
And then remember the ethics, public records, they call it ethics training, but it's really ethics, public records, and sunshine. The law changed 2 years ago. I sent Becky some information. There's webinars,
Yes, sir.
you know, that it's a pain, but, you know, they changed, well, the requirement's been around for many years. I used to teach the class for the Treasure Coast League of Cities, but 2 years ago, they changed the law and said district supervisors need to do the same thing.
That's correct.
In addition to, city and county commissioners. So please remember that. You can Google it also.
Yeah. Becca said she's gonna send us one, I guess,
the one out
special
there.
districts, they give us a discount, and it's $25.
Yeah, but we pay, you shouldn't have to pay it.
Right, but she's gonna send us the link
Yeah.
for us to be able to
She
take
can
the
pay
class.
it and send you the link, and it's 4 hours, and
Yeah,
we can, eat a sandwich, have a drink.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's every year, and that's it, that's, the highlights.
Gotcha. Anybody have any questions for the attorney? None being said. Dina, sorry, can you bring us a treasury report, or do you have anything to report, anything?
Nope.
Not at this time?
She can report that she made it here.
Alright.
Maybe she can report on how was the drive, where did you drive? Oh, that's not too bad.
Speak
There
for
was
your-
nothing
speak
really
for
but
yourself.
grass.
That's an hour and a half.
Sure.
I got it.
About 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours.
So, Dina, we do have a
I
comment.
just got one comment. So as you start going through the actual budget, I would say the actual line items, that's not frozen in stone. I mean, I think the board
That's
agrees.
a great, let me,
So-
so,
I,
yes.
I would like to see, maybe a little bit more detail in certain items and maybe not too much in other ones, so it's kind of open, and I guess once we start going through the workshops, we can kind of talk
Let
about
me say
that.
it another way, I think we have to completely reinvent the way we do the budget. The current budget is rudimentary, and it has,
You want it more condensed
No,
than
so-
this? Or
I-
the actual chart of accounts
The
that
chart
has
of
like
accounts.
3
Yeah,
of
The
everything?
chart of accounts.
the
Yeah.
categories are
What?
giant, so you can put 15 things in each category. You don't know, respectfully, I think they need to be broken down
That's what I'm
so
looking
that
for.
you see,
Yeah,
because there's these, equipment, that could be a truck, it could be heavy equipment, it could be.
that's what I'm looking for. I would like to see, like
Big
groups,
deal.
like, for example, equipment, and then maybe you can do off-road equipment, on-road equipment, or you can do excavators, tractors, blah, blah, blah.
This is what I recommend.
But I would like to see more of what was,
Little bit broken down.
where the money's at, because sometimes we can take a little initiative on our side and say, you know what, we've been spending too much on tractors. We need to look into this, and maybe we buy a tractor instead of continuing to throw money at repairing it.
In South Florida, there's several hundred water control districts. If you Google like Lake Worth, drainage district, all their budgets are online. They're on their website. Just by law, you have to have it on your website. So I would just, again, don't reinvent the wheel.
No,
Just
no, no,
see
yeah.
what some other water control districts do and try to copy it, honestly. Like Lake Worth is a very big, sophisticated one, but there's others around here. I don't know if you can think of any, Steve, but I would
So
say,
you want it more detailed? than
yes,
the
I think it needs a better breakdown.
Sub-accounts?
Yeah,
instead
and I
of-
would just look at what other water control districts do, and also the Florida Association of Special Districts, FASD, has an amazing website that has a lot of resources on there. Wouldn't be surprised if they have some budget stuff on there. that
So
would be helpful.
I think also, like, for instance, as you mentioned, equipment. And then you have equipment here as the title, but subs, equipment, then you have mowers, excavators, pumps.
Yeah.
Broken down a little bit more. So let's say, for
Do you
instance, we
have a
spent,
list of the type of
we do
equipment
have,
you have?
we don't, so again, we're starting off new. We can make it to how we want to.
They all do the same, all water control districts do the same
Have
thing.
the same, like,
So let's say, for instance, we spent let's say, for instance, we spent 20,000 on equipment. So we would be able to see, oh, okay, boom, that 20,000 came from here. It didn't come from the big picture, it came exactly right here from the pump.
Yeah.
Instead of, we might be thinking, oh, a mower went down, or a tractor, or whatever. A little bit more specific, a little bit, almost digging into the weeds just a little bit more. Not so general.
that would be hard to do.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, most of the treasurers, the finance people at other districts would be pleased to talk to you for 20, 30 minutes and send you things. They're all,
But
I mean, basically, you're gonna have to revamp the chart of accounts, because you gotta have an account
Absolutely.
that captured it, you know?
So first of all, well, I don't even know what, so I don't think we use software, I think we use just a pencil and a piece of paper, but we're gonna start using accounting software.
Yeah.
And this is a good time too, because once you guys start setting up all the chart of accounts in QuickBooks, it'll make it a lot easier, because you're not redoing everything, you're kind of starting.
We're gonna tweak it,
I
Dana.
got here at
You know,
2 o'clock, I just
Yeah.
recreated their chart of
Oh,
accounts.
you did?
I mean, and now you get to do it again.
We're
You
gonna
have
tweak
like
it.
free
you know,
range
sure,
to like create something from scratch.
Yeah. So now that we're starting off new, there's some adjustments that we'd like to see, so we don't have to guess. We can figure it out just by looking at it more in detail. Good question. Any more questions for our treasurer? Thank you, Dina. So we'll go to our board supervisor report. Mr. Self, you have anything? We'll start with you.
No, I'm good.
All right, nothing there. Mr. Moreno, anything on your side? Oh, you wanted to speak on something, go ahead.
John, ready to go?
John, I remember about 2 years ago, we were talking about, split away from, 290 to 292?
298.
298, okay, and, it's gonna take time and money. And I remember a figure of $250,000, $250,000 at that time. Is that a good number, or just was a number throw out for?
It's a rough number, so, first of all, it all depends, so right now, it's called a water control district under chapter 298 of the Florida statute. We could do, I don't want to, it's not a baby step, it's a big step, to do what used to be called the East County Water Control District. Now it's called the Lehigh Improvement District. And they went from a water control district to an improvement district, and now they do drainage, roads, lighting, and they do fire, and possibly water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
And again, Lehigh acres, just like this, you know, acre plus lots. 30 years ago, very rural, today, all paved, and actually it's become a very wealthy area. It used to be, good before.
Does that give
go
you
out
more
there.
control with your taxes on as
Well-
far as what goes out on the different, like, if you
Yeah,
go
oh,
up to
by
an
the way,
improvement?
and they're ad valorem. So, as, you know, it's common to see $1 million homes today in Lehigh acres. In the 90s, I remember that was a place where you could buy for $5,000
Sure.
an acre. But, so their revenue went up dramatically.
Yes, sir.
But, so, in order to do the conversion, we have to change the law. When we change the law, we have to hire a lobbyist to write the change and then lobby the legislators to vote for it. This would be called the local law, so it'd really be the Hendry County delegation would all have to agree with us and then push that change in Tallahassee. Then secondly, if we go to ad valorem, we would have to do a financial study. And I cannot tell you the particulars of that, but I know they would look at the tax base here and say, you know, if you did 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, 4 mil, I don't know what Hendry County is at right now. in terms
The
of
millage,
Village,
I think it's pretty low.
is it? Yeah.
They got it back down.
And this study shows you, you know, if you're gonna, again, depends on what services you're gonna provide.
Yes, sir.
Or you could go from here to, you know, the village of Montura, in which case you'd be a full-blown municipality, and that is the whole suite of services. And there's an example of that, and you can read about it too. Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District is now the town of Loxahatchee Groves. They converted in 2016, and I'm sure they would be willing to share their story with anybody.
So, this is what I propose, okay? Last year we did $100 head tax increase because we were struggling. If we continue this way, we're gonna get to a point, if Henry County take over, or we're gonna, close this place. So instead of going $100 a year, okay, put a line item on the budget for X amount of years, we have to figure out how much it's gonna cost, for either 3, 5, 7 years to get out of the 298, 100%. We know when we have this meeting in October for the landowners, okay, we're gonna be hitting every year $5, $10, $20. $15, okay? It's a lot easier to sell that to not 100. I know most of the, I won't say 50% of the landowners here said they've been here for so many years, 20 plus or more. And for them to realize this is very hard, okay? So we have to get to an avenue where they can see where we're heading, and let them know we're heading that way, okay? Let's not be afraid to tell, I mean, the community, this is what we're heading to, okay? We can keep it, you know, acre and a quarter, acre and a half with animal, stuff like that, but let them know this place is getting, you know, it's progressing every day. You mentioned $1 million home here, but don't go too far. Houses over here is close to 500,000 or more, the one around the corner here.
That's $1 million.
No, I'm saying, that one here, the guy with the horses right at the entrance, that guy over there, I think he got 20 acres there, okay? So,
It's 5.
people's moving in.
It's
I mean,
rounded up, it's rounded enough.
I mean, they're coming in and buying, I mean, in Montura, so that's good, but the old landowner, they don't realize that. They think that on the 70, 80, 90, where we're moving fast.
Well, I think a lot of landowners think that the money they send to Hendry County goes to us.
I know, that's another thing.
Some have that perception, some, not all, but some have that perception.
So, that, you know, that's what I like to, propose is, in October, bring that up on the 25-26 budget. Put a line item there, we need to come up with a figure, how many years, first of all, it's gonna take to develop this, and how much we're gonna be charging every year to come up to $1 million or $500,000, whatever it is, figures. That way, it's little by little incrementing that, and then money will be just sitting in the bank.
Yeah, so the board has talked now about, going down the path of incorporating as a municipality, 7,000 acres. So right now, it's a taxing, an independent special taxing district. There's thousands in Florida. There's fire districts.
Correct.
There's water and sewer districts. These districts were created to put in the infrastructure for development. So this district was created 7,000 acres and put in the drainage infrastructure because this was a swamp.
Sure.
The developers bought a swamp. And then, well, and when this is a governmental entity, subject to all the governmental laws, but what it allows them to do is issue public debt. So the developers, instead of going into their own pockets, issue debt. Public debt is cheaper than private debt. And so they issue tens of millions of dollars in bonds to dig the whole canal network to make this place livable.
I think, I don't want to speak on behalf of all the board members, but I think that the goal here is as much as possible, the money that we spend in taxes stay here. As much, that would be the end goal, to try to, as much as possible. I don't know how that's gonna work.
Do a study, because we don't even know,
Absolutely.
for example, it'd be interesting, let's
Sure.
say that Hendry County is at 4 mills.
Sure.
Okay, if you drew a line around Montura,
Yes,
based
sir.
on today's tax base, how much revenue would 4 mills generate for a municipality? That's a great question, and I know there's
Absolutely.
firms out there that do that kind of work. Probably cost,
That's why we need to put that on the budget.
Sure.
because that might scare you or might make you
Well,
excited.
the
I
other
don't
thing,
know.
I think there's a lot of good grants out there as well, and see if we can incorporate some of that money to do some of those studies, because there's a lot of grants that are out there. I'm not saying, that might not qualify, but if there is, or if there isn't, like I say, figure out ways to raise money to do some of these studies that we need to have done.
Which would take, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, so you say create a fund where we put aside a certain amount. So presently, they do not have an ad valorem tax.
Correct.
They have a per lot maintenance tax, so it's a flat fee.
Per
So
acre.
whether you have $1 million
Per acre,
home
yes, sir.
or it's vacant land, you pay the same.
Is-
Like
is
ad
there-
valorem, which is based on the value of your home.
John, is there any legality as far as like, let's say we say we do wanna raise this money because we're collecting the money under a 298, is there any issues, the money being pulled, it's still going to the 298, even though we're saying it's going to?
Well, I think it all has to relate back to the mission here.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
trying to figure out a better way to finance what we do.
Technically,
Keep up.
it's not, you know,
You can't
quote
raise
unquote.
money to build a firehouse. I
Well,
get your point.
well, it's not going to roads, it's not going to
No, no, it's
canals,
gonna be
it's going
strictly-
for the next phase.
For a financing mechanism so
Yeah.
that we can have good roads,
Yeah.
you know, good drainage.
Best
good
management
recreation.
practices for the future.
So
We're trying to
they,
be resilient.
so the development improvement district, it still stays incorporated, right? Is that what you're saying? Or is it, because it's not
No.
technically a town, it
No,
would
no,
still
it's not a
be,
town.
so it would still be unincorporated?
No, no, it would go away. So the Loxa, if you Google, you go, Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District is now, they were a 298
They
district,
broke
and
away
now
from
they're the town. They're
No, I'm talking
municipal.
about the one in Lehigh, you said that one converted to a
Well,
development.
they were a water control district, and now they changed
Village.
their name. They were East County Water Control District, and then they eventually became Lehigh Improvement, Municipal Services Improvement
So-
District.
And that's where
So
Mr.
there's-
Cortez
there's-
is,
they're attached
So
to
does
this.
that, so
They're not a
that,
city,
so it's still unincorporated, is what I'm saying?
yes.
Okay.
They're not a city.
So it's kinda like the in between a city and where
But
we're at,
they-
basically?
Yeah, they were, like us, they were in unincorporated Lee County, and they took away
Yep.
services from the county, and.
they took it on.
Ad valorem,
Tax.
yeah.
And the taxes too, stay on,
And the taxes.
that's all.
So that's what, and there's where I believe the workshop, Mr. Cortez, needs to be taking place with all of our landowners, so we can be more educated. So as John's saying, there's all kinds of districts, there's different incorporations, there's different things. Which one is the one that we would wanna go to as a community to
Remember,
go
it's a small
forward?
world.
Yeah.
They're,
You know what I'm saying?
three
Yeah.
lobbyists.
That's why I was wondering, like, what
Currently the
what
executive
leverage do we
director
have
of
going to
Florida
that versus
Association.
incorporating or,
Absolutely.
you
The
know,
one that
'cause,
got Lehigh.
I mean, at the end of the day, we
He's
probably
still
still need some of the
lobbyist,
counties.
Yeah,
Help
so I mean,
services,
right now,
something
Central
like that.
County, we take care of the most biggest function, which is roads and drainage, and then Hendry County doesn't provide nothing to us besides, I mean, we pay for fire, sheriff department, mosquito control.
And
So,
trash pickup.
Hmm?
And trash
trash
pickup.
pickup, and if you think about it, for the amount of money that they get, so if you're paying $3,000 in taxes, that's all going over there, but then you only pick your 425 up here, so
Yeah.
if it was the other way around,
Yeah.
and we picked up the 3,000, 4,000 here, then you could, I mean, really, what else would we have to pick up?
Well, let me give you an example,
For
too, like
services we have to
Loxahatchee
provide.
Groves, even with all the tax money, you wouldn't believe how expensive it is to have police and fire.
Oh,
So
definitely.
Yeah.
what do they do?
They pay
Like
sheriff.
many municipalities, they contract with the sheriff's
Yeah,
office.
yeah.
Well,
They
it's the
say,
same
you give
thing,
us 3 cars, 4 officers, and we can give you X dollars a year, same thing with fire.
well, Hill Foundation, they pay for one officer for a year for us. So, I mean, it's not that it can't be done, but the only thing, they pulled that officer out of here and kept sending them somewhere else. So, I mean, it's really not, I think it's achievable, and, I mean, the majority of the stuff that we do here is just, we need more funds, so if we was able to actually bring it, and then, that goes to my bigger question, so if we was to become incorporated, or however we move into, do we completely break away as far as like tax revenue? Does
No.
any of that go back to Hendry County, or do we still have a percentage that has to go to them, or we're completely, that's gonna come to us?
I think there's always a percentage that goes to the county, cause
Well,
you're
it
using the
depends How
roads.
many services you pick up.
Yeah, but there's,
Well,
there's-
there's-
even at the lowest level, there's always money that goes to them because of their
The
county
school,
roads.
the school.
No, that's separate.
School
Schools-
district is separate.
No, but
Yes,
the
that
actual
would still
county,
be
there's
taxed.
still a line that goes, even when you're like City of Clouston, City of LaBelle, all these,
There could
there's still a
be
line item that goes
limited, yeah,
to the,
some
to
of
the
the
That's what I'm
county.
wondering,
Relax,
like, out of the ad valorem, how much, so if you look at the whole entire ad valorem that we pay, how much of that will come to us, and what would still have to go to Hendry County? But we could
You literally have to get
subcontract
a
out sheriff
economist.
department, and we're gonna break away from them.
So the thing that I've been told is that half of the, basically when you look at your taxes, the line item that goes to the Board of Commissioners, Hendry County, half of that goes straight to Hendry County Sheriff. So whatever you're paying on that line, or half of that,
It's gonna go to
is
them.
going to Hendry. If we were to, or go into this development district, that's kinda open for negotiation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cause then, at that point, you're negotiating with them by the per cop, not just half of my budget goes to them. So
Yeah.
you're like, what do you charge per year for a cop,
Yeah,
right?
'cause the Hill Foundation paid for one,
Yeah,
and then, I mean,
You
if
can't-
we was to get more taxes, we could probably
Yeah.
get 3 or 4 subcontract them out and have them, you know,
it
probably
could,
a year.
it could be a lot cheaper, cause,
Oh, it's gonna be.
and probably have more,
But as I say,
And
with a
this is the
study,
kind of stuff, what you guys are talking about is exactly, you know, before you jump over the cliff.
Absolutely.
We'd wanna know
Yeah.
what would the cost be, and there's firms that do that type of work.
That's what we're looking for, I'm looking for, and how long does it take to get a pick up that money without being a big,
Yeah.
So one thing I was doing is just kind of a quick math, looking at those numbers. I think if let's just say it was $25 that we increased for that, right? $25 is like 200 grand a year.
I'm at 20 right now. Roughly,
So it's,
in
so
3
you're
years.
looking at about 200 grand.
Yeah, so
199,
depend,
198.
you know, how much can, we need to spend. So there's something that we need to,
Yeah.
information for you, John, and how we're gonna split it. 3 years, 5 years, and then start moving toward that. And let the community, the landowners, hey, this is what we're moving to, and we need to spread that. And again, I know we're gonna get a lot of pushback. Those landlords being here for so long,
Yeah.
and they need to realize this is Montura, it's not even 5 years ago. 10
That's
years
what I'm
ago.
saying, if you workshop it, you have tons of workshop.
A lot of feedback.
Correct, that's what I start working
You
on.
get that feedback and get those questions and try to answer those questions.
Correct, so we need to start working on that, please.
Sure.
That's my 2 cents for the
Have
day.
anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Nothing? You said, thank you, Mr. Moreno. Mr. Cortez, you have anything?
No, I think I kind of covered, I got a lot of covered.
So, I've got one thing. I have one question for you, John. So we have 2 grants. The $1.6 million grant that we're working with the county. The board needs to know for sure, do we have to get a loan for that so we can do it in draws, or how is it gonna work? We need to know exactly how the thing is gonna work. Not only for the 1.4, but also for the $4 million grant. How is it going to work? Because, like, for instance, I'd hate to have a contractor working and then stop because we don't have funds. Sure. So we need to know what mechanism and what we need to do and how it's gonna work. And try to give an idea is, when will we get our money back? Who's gonna be pushing this to get our funds back so we can keep going? I'm assuming we're gonna have to get a loan and take draws out of it. I'm assuming that, that's just me assuming, but I don't wanna do that. I want you guys to know that for sure. So that's my biggest thing that I have. Other than that, thank you everybody for coming out. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Kenny, I've got a couple questions here for you.